Rolor zampe zepar Pande lame shabla solvade Oma guru vaj Suma timonishas Uta vardanya shribar Varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Omo a guru vajradara Suma timonishasane kar Uta vardanya shribar Varsa manya sarvas Oma guru vajrad Sumati munishasane Uta vardanya shri badra Varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Oma guru vajradara Sumati munishasane Varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Pakyuke kudan da gelu Pakyuke su Pakyuke tugdan da geyi Tön yerme çıktı çingelo Makyuke kudan da gelu Makyuke sundan da genga Makyuke tugdan da geyi Tön yerme çıktı çingelo Om muni muni maha muni Shakya muni svoha Sangye chodan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso che rola Sangye chodan tsoge chonam la chancho pardo dani kyapso che dagi jinso gibe sonam ki Drola pinchra sangye drupar Sho sangye chodan tsoge chonam la Jancho pardo dani kyapsu chi Dagi jinso gibe sonam ki Drola pinchra sangye drupar Sho Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nella Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo alhaye ke da luda nö jinke drubon da da mi ke nam da drowa kuinge dranama che tsampa tamche ke to da ge che ten Buongiorno.
Good morning.
Il concetto di segreto
Concept of secret
si manifesta in modi diversi.
manifests itself in various aspects. In our culture, very often, when something is secret,
Vuol dire
it
che
means that there is something that needs to be hidden, something wrong. Very often it's like that. So when something is kept secret, usually there is a part of shame connected to it, a part of feeling guilty, a part that is like, okay, it shouldn't be like that, so in order to protect oneself from the judgment or whatever, then it's kept secret. In order to protect from a negative reaction and so on. In Vajrayana Buddhism, the concept of secret is totally different. Something is kept as a secret not because it's negative or there is something about which one should somehow hide oneself, but because it's something that if the other doesn't have the basis to be able to understand it correctly, can end up interpreting it in the wrong way, to understand it in the wrong way. So in a few words is this: if there is something for which you're not ready to understand, I don't tell you, otherwise you understand it in a wrong way and you hurt yourself. So this is the concept of secret. The secret one of the names for Vajrayana Buddhism, that is called Tantra, is also called the secret mantra as a name. And there is a whole part inside of tantric practices of like a lot of secrets. There is this. But it's not something like there is a sort of secret society and in order to get into that you have to do this or that. It's not about that. There are some aspects of practices that if one doesn't have the basis to comprehend them correctly, may have a wrong interpretation. That is not a simple interpretation, but something that ends up doing harm. And so for that, usually you don't teach to those that don't have the preparation to understand. And so from this comes the name secret in general. One of the fundamental characteristics of Vajrayana Buddhism is called the capacity of transformation, where there are no taboos, where everything that is part of the basis, that is, the resources that we have available today, can be used as a tool for enlightenment, can be transformed. That is, we have our body, we have our mind, we have the environment, we have the processes, the natural processes of body and mind, and we have seen previously the process of death, bardo and rebirth. There are some moments where naturally during our lives, over our lifetime, for a physical process, winds absorb in the central channel and one naturally enters in a deeper state of consciousness. These moments are sleep, then there is that of excellence, there is death, and in the middle of this also there is orgasm, and also when you are really afraid. It's described also when you sneeze. I don't know, when you sneeze, isn't there like an instant in the midst of that when you don't think about anything? That is, it's that instant that we're talking about. Then there is another fundamental aspect that I wanted to mention, and I told myself that I wouldn't have given any introduction, but at the end, I can't do it. There is a fundamental part in this process of transformation, that is that everything that it's at the basis, it's not that should be lived like as a good thing, but if used correctly, then it becomes an antidote. And we at the basis, that is what we are today, we have ignorance, we have attachment and desire, and we have aversion, anger. Okay, these are the three main feelings. And also if we look, we have right, left, center. So male, female, union. Day, light, sun, moon, eclipse. There are always these three aspects, yin, yang, and the union of yin and yang. It's the same symbology. What happens is the following. Also our very subtle mind, that it's at the basis of our emotions, is made out of these three forces, which are attraction, going towards something, avoiding something, so aversion, which is not necessarily anger. Attraction and aversion are not necessarily anger. Love is a form of attraction. I am attracted by your happiness. Compassion is, there is a component of aversion. I have aversion towards your suffering. I don't want you to suffer. And then there is the third, which is the indifference or neutrality. That in the mental defilements, okay, we have attachment, desire, attraction, anger, hatred, and so on, aversion, and ignorance or dullness in the part of neutrality, indifference. One of the names that is given to the practice of Vajrayana Buddhism, of Tantra, is the process of transformation of the poisons. So it's called which means transforming attachment, desire into the path, bringing desire into the path and transforming it into the path, to transform anger into the path, transforming ignorance into the path. Usually one would say, you're a person that has a lot of anger, then you should overcome your anger, you should develop patience, getting angry is not good for you, which is very right. The next step that is transmitted in the Vajrayana is where one recognizes the energetic component of anger, of attachment, of ignorance. There is not simply an energetic component like something mystical, but it's the fact that anger itself has an energy, a force of opposition, of pushing away, of eliminating. Desire is the opposite, as the component of attracting, and ignorance as the component of ignoring. So, how, now without getting into too many details, but what does it mean? Like, how do we transform desire into the path? You have a lot of desire? Good, more. More. To generate that inner force of passion, of wanting something with something particular about it that needs to be redirected, because at the basis of desire there is the attraction towards what, on which I project my happiness, that I believe that will be good for me. And I understand at the basis that what actually makes me feel well is the development of love, balance, satisfaction, it's an inner state of peace, and so on. And so I take that huge force of desire, and instead of repressing it, I redirect it towards the state of Buddhahood, towards the state of peace, towards the development of love and compassion, and so on. And at that point, I transform that force of desire into the path. Anger, at the basis of aversion, there is the wanting to eliminate and destroy what generates suffering. You talk to me in a certain way, and according to me you make me suffer, you annoy me. I don't want to see you, I want to push you away. And here, okay, you have a lot of anger, more. You take this force of this wheel of pushing away, of eliminating and so on, and you redirect it. Where one understands that what is the cause, the real cause of suffering? Why does one really suffer? It's like, okay, I have a stick, and if someone hits us with a stick, what will be the object that is cause of suffering? The stick? What would you say if someone gets angry with the stick? Okay, you're like a fool. It's not like fault of the stick, so it's the hand. No, the arm. Usually we will say the person, but it's also not the person, the primary cause. The primary cause is the selfishness and the ignorance. And so I direct that anger against selfishness and ignorance. And so the object of anger, the object that I want to destroy, that I want to eliminate by all means. What is it? The primary cause of suffering. So, selfishness itself, ignorance itself.
Quindi quella forza viene
And so that force is redirected against selfishness, against ignorance.
E qua io trasformo
And here I transform anger into the path. Ignorance is not seeing. I don't see reality. I don't perceive things. I ignore. The word ignorance in Sanskrit is avidya, which means not seeing. Is a negation, vid, to see. So not seeing.
Io di solito cosa
Usually, what do I don't see? Do I not see? The reality of things, interdependence, the impermanence. I don't see the nature of things.
come trasformo
How do I transform ignorance into the path? I use that same characteristic of not seeing in order to not see in
la parte della permanenza
to not see the permanence in what is impermanent, the part of an autonomous existence, so I ignore the appearance of intrinsic existence. It's the same attitude of not seeing, but I choose what I don't want to see. And so the ignorance transforms into wisdom. And so one of the particular characteristics of Tantra is really this, that whatever is there at the basis can be transformed into the path. There is no taboo whatsoever, there is nothing that cannot be transformed into the path. And this also starts from a fundamental principle, that is that of all phenomena lack an intrinsic autonomous existence, and so it depends on how we relate to that phenomenon for the type of interaction that will be created. And they used to be in the ancient times, something not diffuse at all, but in some cases it was said that it would happen. That is one of the basic characteristics to practice Tantra in a correct way, by all means, is on one hand to have the part of love and compassion, and on the other hand to have the vision, the coherent, correct vision of reality, to realize that nothing exists in an autonomous, intrinsic, independent way. And one of the proofs that was done was that of the 5 meats and 5 nectars. What does this mean? Okay, let's take one example among all of this, because for example, in India, we're talking about around 1500 years ago in India, it was, for example, majority of spiritual practitioners, there was like all the caste, so there were the Brahmins with a concept of purity and so on. But among all of this, let's take one specific example, like the excrement. Okay, among the 5 nectars, there is the excrement. Something that is nasty intrinsically, or because we attribute that value. Is it an objectively nasty nature, or is it subjective
quando ci troviamo davanti?
When we find ourselves in front of it?
Come appare a noi?
How does it appear to us? As being something that is disgusting in an autonomous, independent, objective way by itself. It's not that we attribute that value. And one of the proofs, the tests that was done to see how much one wasn't projecting things as having an autonomous, independent existence and was able to melt that thing, is that the practitioner was given to eat the 5 meats and the 5 nectars. And even in the inner offering, you place some pills that today you don't use them anymore. But today there are like the substitutes of the 5 meats and 5 nectars. But until like a certain time, still there were used the 5 meats and 5 nectars. But what is the concept? Am I saying like all phenomena are empty of intrinsic existence, nothing exists in an autonomous, independent way? Yeah, let's see. Let's test ourselves. And there is also a funny story of a master in Tibet that was called Changyalagyam Chokten, a very important master that wrote very important texts, and he was the master of, in Tibet, in Lhasa, there were two main monasteries to study Tantra, which are two tantric schools called Kyume and Gyuto. And in these colleges, the disciplinary master has a higher role of importance than the abbot itself. And usually who's a master of discipline then becomes abbot. It's not like a simple role, like there is like a managerial role. It's very important. And at that point, okay, he was like the master of discipline in that monastery. Very rigid monastery, as rules today also. For example, for a long time there was at the entrance of the temple of the Gompa, there was, how do you say, like the jamb of the door, and it was a lack of respect to put the feet on the jamb of the door. So whoever put whoever monk put the feet on the jamb of the door was expelled. So it was very rigid. And at a certain point, some monks start to do things that they shouldn't do, so to drink alcohol, have intercourses with women, things that were getting outside of the monastic rules and so on. But they would say that they had some inner realizations, that they were able to transform alcohol in nectar or these kind of things. And so at this point, one day, Changyal Nogyam Chukten, there is the puja in the morning and everyone is there, and everyone has his own bowl, more or less as big as this, like, or usually a little bit bigger, like wooden bowl, very handy, because like when there are ceremonies and pujas and so on, there is no need to wash them. Everyone brings their own from home, then they just take it back home and then they wash it or not. In India there was one, he was sitting next to me that didn't wash his bowl, but anyway, what happens is that, okay, at this point it comes to pour and on each one's bowl. And okay, in Tibet they had dry toilets, so he gets like he asks to take excrements and urine from those, and then he rolls them up and then he pours them warm for everyone. And then he says, here there are all those that say that they have realizations transforming alcohol and everything. I'm not judging like who is realized or not, and I can then show us who now drinks this that I just offered you without problems, then has my permission to continue with that conduct. Otherwise, you're expelled. He himself, that didn't have that kind of conduct, takes it and drinks it all without like moving. Some try to drink and start vomiting badly, and they were sent away, and so that situation was cleaned. I remember once with Lama Ganchen, we were invited at a formal lunch in China, and were these great lunches with big tables, and they put like dishes in front of you, and it's like a lack of respect to not even try them. Lama Ganchen wasn't eating spicy things, so this dish comes and they say, this is the soup of this and that, and it's a bit spicy. Me, I lived in India and I don't have any problem with spices, with chili. And I remember that as I was starting to kind of drink it, like not even touching it, my lips were already starting to burn. And I look at Lama Ganchen, that didn't eat spicy usually, takes the soup and drinks it all like that. And there wasn't even like one slight movement of the face or anything. And then he comes in the car after he ate the lunch, and he ate a lot of things that he usually shouldn't have eaten, or wouldn't have eaten. And the only comment that he did was then, okay, can you give me 2 pills of that? That it was like for stomach ache. And I remember that, okay, one puts effort or something, but like something that is so spicy to not have any reaction on the face. I was very impressed by that. But anyway, This is to say that in general, in Tantra, there is this characteristic that nothing is a taboo. And there is nothing actually that can't be transformed. This doesn't mean that violence can be lived in a positive way. We're not going into extreme relativism. We are saying that all the resources that we have today, of our body, of our mind, and so on, can be, depending on the approach that it's there, can be used for our own process of spiritual growth. One of the main roles is that of bringing that state that we have generated in the moment of the initiation of the Vajra Master, in the identity I am Vajradhara, the union of bliss and emptiness, to take it from a gross level to a subtle level and very subtle level. And the tool that is used to do that is the process of absorption of the pranas, the winds, in the central channel. What allows this to happen, one of the tools that allows this, is the inner sensation of bliss. The more intense, the more stronger is the sensation of bliss and pleasure, the more these winds absorb and the more one gets into a deeper state of consciousness. In the self-healing, after we have done the initiation of the Master, the Vajra Master, we have the other three initiations, so the secret initiation, the initiation of wisdom, and then the initiation of word. The secret initiation is called like that because it's initiation that happens through the symbology of the secret substances. Normally, when an initiation is granted and comes the moment of the initiation, the secret initiation, the complete name is the initiation of the secret consort. The symbology that is used is symbology based predominantly on the aspect of sexual union. And that's where another aspect of secrecy is the fact that if one doesn't understand well, then may end up believing that sometimes we can confuse the symbol with the meaning. I've already heard many times thinking that in order to practice the Tantra we need to have sexual intercourses. If that was like that, then we will live in a world full of tantric practitioners. But it's not like that, absolutely. This is one complete misunderstanding. There is one aspect where if one would ask, is it possible to transform the sexual union into the path, using that for the spiritual path? Answer, yes. There are many prerequisites, requirements. First one is to love oneself and to love the other, which is the bodhicitta, and then correct view of reality. Then there is the non-attachment to pleasure itself, which is a mean and not an end. And also here I think that, okay, we can make quite a discernment. I look at myself, am I able to do that? Am I ready to do that or not? One is already able to see, because the danger that it's there is that of seeing that, okay, it becomes like a sort of self-justification, something to, then the point becomes the sexual pleasure, not like a tool for a deeper growth. And it's something that has always been shared, transmitted in a way that is very specific and also to very, very few. It's something, if one would ask, like to me, like they ask me, Lama, can you teach me tantric sex? No, also because I don't practice it. It's something that is not part of the practice that I learned, that you teach, that you share in this way. And so there is a whole part that we leave as a symbology to help us generate that inner state of bliss. What Lama Rinpoche did with the self-healing was to transcend the part of the symbology of the sexual union and represent it directly with what happens internally. So, not to use that symbology anymore, but to go directly to the inner experience. And so, what happens? Subtle winds start to absorb. we have our central channel, two side channels. The two side channels where mainly the energies related to attraction and aversion run have an aspect that we didn't explain yet, that they meet, they intersect from one side to the other of the central channel. So if this is the central channel, the right channel goes to the left side, then goes back and goes back again on the other side. And the left one does the same thing. And since we use mainly the two side channels energetically, they end up squeezing the central channel. What does it mean during the moment of pleasure and bliss? That the two channels relax, winds reabsorb, and that tension, that pressure that is there on the central channel is loosened, allowing energy to flow inside of the central channel. This is what brings to a deeper state of consciousness. And so, what happens in this moment? The secret initiation at the head, the winds absorb at the head chakra, at the throat chakra, those knots untie, and the white bodhicitta, which is related to the male energy coming from our father, fresh in nature, white in color, the sense starts to descend because it's found predominantly at the head chakra. When the knots untie, can descend, can run, and so it starts to descend until getting to the basis of the central channel that is connected directly to the tip of the sexual organ. And as this bodhicitta descends, there is an inner feeling of a growing bliss. And so what one imagines actually is that, okay, we can bless these substances with Om Ahom. You imagine the winds absorbing. When I explained, okay, we bring our attention back to the central channel, this represents that our attention towards the senses comes to the inside. We lose contact with the outer senses, our winds, and so the pranas that go towards the outside come back and reabsorb, opening so the head chakra of the throat and bit by bit the 5 chakras, and the male energy of method descends, generating this inner feeling of bliss. Then the female energy that comes from our mother, that is warm in nature and red in color, from the secret chakra, between the secret chakra and the navel, starts to come up. So that's why some say that the female energy is in the sacred chakra. Some say that it's in the navel chakra, it's between one and the other. So this starts to come up, it's warm in nature, and then as it goes up to the head chakra, it generates also this inner feeling of a growing bliss. This bliss that is generated is used, as we have already explained before, to realize the emptiness of intrinsic nature of oneself and of bliss itself, and of oneself experiencing it. Actually, what it does, okay, we take that same state of consciousness that we generated previously, I am Vajradhara, and we bring it to a deeper level, using bliss as a tool to bring it to a deeper state.
No, non voglio dilungarmi con...
Now I don't want to get too long with other aspects. We focus on that, on what is there in the practice of self-feeling. If we want, we could get into the whole part of symbology, how it usually happens in other initiations, but there is no need with this. Now we would just take away our attention from where it should be. So let's focus. It's internal, an internal thing. It's something, as you can see, that, okay, what does it have to do? What we do in the secret initiation with the sexual aspect. It has to do with the fact that in the mundane, ordinary experience, the closest thing that there is to this so-called bliss is orgasm. And so what is the reference that we could have as the closest thing to understand what are we talking about, that is not the same thing. It's described that is something as much more intense and lasting. But what is the closest that one can get to is pleasure, the orgasm through the sexual union. And so it's like using a symbology to help us, to try to give us a point of reference. It's the same thing? Is it the same thing? No. So here we imagine the white bodhicitta descending, and as it goes down, let's remember that at each one of the 5 chakras there are all the other channels meeting. So as it goes down from the head chakra and gets into the other 32 channels, then when it gets at the throat, it gets into the 16 channels, at the heart in the 8 channels, at the navel in the 64 channels, and at the sacral chakra enters the 32 channels, filling everything of that white nectar, and it's a growing bliss. It's described as 16 blisses. 4 by 4, because there are 4 levels, and each one is divided by 4, but it's a growing bliss.
Poi, quando facciamo questo,
then, when we do this, we recite the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, Om, body, speech and mind, the being, Mani, jewel, method, bliss, and Peme is lotus flower, the female energy, and so the union of male and female, bliss and emptiness. Hum represents wisdom, the state of consciousness that is there in the union of bliss and emptiness. So, me, Om, me, on a gross level, subtle and very subtle level, the being, Om, in the union of bliss and emptiness. Bliss, emptiness, Mani, Peme, Hum, representing consciousness, the being, and the wisdom of the union of bliss and emptiness. So the non-dual union of the two. This is what the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra represents. When we go down, we clap our hands, and this represents the fact that as the knots untie, the white bodhicitta melts, goes down. When we clap our hands, we start with the right hand towards outside. And so, for example, when we usually do, we end up with the left one towards the outside, so you start with the right one and then you end up with the left one. These are details. When we do the second part, channels have already opened up, and the red bodhicitta of the nature of the mother, of female nature, warm in nature, goes up, and this ascending is directed by the subtle winds that push it upwards, and this represents the direction towards which we snap the fingers. So, what we do, and now here we start with the left hand in front and we close with the right one.
Okay. Quindi rappresentano i venti che
So representing winds bringing red bodhicitta up. So sacred chakra, navel,
cuore,
heart,
gola,
throat, and head.
Okay. E quindi qua la bodhicitta.
So here the red bodhicitta goes up, and still here the same thing. Starts to get into all channels in a growing bliss until getting to the head chakra.
Dopo di questo,
after that, what happens is that our central channel is filled, like the white bodhicitta has gone down, the red one has gone up, and so they unite when we do the part that is called the initiation of wisdom. The word term wisdom refers to something that is visualized, imagined. The complete term will be the initiation of the secret of the wisdom consort, where there is a state where there is the union of the male and female. But that is not the physical union, is the inner union of the two energies. And so the white bodhicitta has gone down, the red one has gone up, and so then they mix inside of the chakras. So first they unite at the head, then at the throat, at the secret chakra, at the navel, and then at the heart. If we had 4 hands, we will do Om Maha Asuka Hum at the head chakra and the secret chakra, then at the throat, at the navel, and then at the heart, because the process is like this. But because we have 2, then we do head, throat, secret chakra, navel chakra, and heart. Someone could say, why don't we do head, secret chakra, and so on? It's the same, but we follow how it was transmitted to us by our masters. So, in this moment, what happens is that we imagine this union of the male and female energies at the head, at the throat, at the secret chakra, the navel chakra, and at the heart. And by making it so that they mix, all the energy that was there is absorbed towards the next one. So from the head it unites, and then all winds go towards the throat. The secret chakra unites and goes up towards the navel, and then that also is united and goes up to the heart, and from the throat goes down to the heart, and then eventually they absorb completely there. So then we do the Hagi Mudra, representing the union of the male and female, bliss and emptiness. The Om Mahasukha Hum, where Maha means big, Sukha means bliss, and once again, Om, there are many meanings, but represents also body, speech, mind, me, in a great bliss, Hum, the non-dual union. So I am the non-dual union of bliss and emptiness, of great bliss, Om Mahasukha. At this point, what we are imagining is that the various winds enter, absorb, and everything starts to get in. It's like what we said before, at this point of the practice, there is only the central channel as a perception. We should try to completely, how do you say, kind of disconnect ourselves from the outer world. Everything is absorbed. It's as if our 5 senses were shut down. Get into the central channel, and then there is the subtle part of the male and female energy. There is the part of attraction and aversion which absorb, and then when there is the Mahasukha and everything goes to the heart chakra, it's very similar to what happens during the process of death. The white vision, red vision, and black vision. When at the end of the process of death, in the black vision, everything absorbs into the earth. So what we imagine this moment is that this state of bliss becomes so intense that then there is no room for anything else, and then all our energies, pranas, are absorbed, and it's a bit like saying, as we said the other day, if we take like some water hose, and water is going out with strength, with force, and then we close it, it's as if it goes back. Similarly to this, our winds and pranas manifest from the heart, going out, and then finally they're reabsorbed at the heart. So in this moment we imagine all the energy that was generated, all our energy that is absorbed at the head, throat, secret chakra, navel, and then finally at the heart. At the center of the heart chakra there is the indestructible drop that is made out of the male and female energies, so the essence of the sperm and egg of our mother and father, where in the inside there is our very subtle body and mind. At this point, when the part of the red and white bodhicitta absorb into this indestructible drop, the indestructible drop is made in the upper part like white, and inside is like red. So it's similar to like a sort of the outside of a knot. And so they absorb into the indestructible drop, which is described as spinning. So the white part that goes down and the red one up. When that spins is when there is the so-called black vision. This is also what happens in the process of death. And this is the moment when the part of the subtle body and mind ceases, and one gets into a very deep state of consciousness, which still isn't self-manifest, self-evident. When we have done this in this part of the practice, simulating the process of death, it's not simulation of the process of death, but it's inducing oneself to a very subtle state of consciousness through a meditative process. It's kind of the same thing, but the process is different. So while at the beginning of the practice, as we transform death into Dharmakaya, we are simulating the process of death to get into the very subtle state of clear light. Here actually is not a simulation of the process of death, it's using bliss as a tool to make the winds absorb and to bring us from a gross level to subtle level and very subtle level of consciousness.
Però il processo è più o meno lo stesso.
But the process is more or less the same. And so that's why we have the white bodhicitta. It's like the white vision. The red bodhicitta is like the red vision. Before the white bodhicitta going down, when we say we place our attention inside the center channel, represents the first part, very similar to the first part of absorption of the elements, where one loses touch with the outer world. So going back in the inside. And then when in Mahasukha everything reabsorbs at the heart is like the black vision. That point, from this state where there is the state that all the energy has been absorbed at the heart, there is a moment, it's a growing bliss to a less conceptual level and to a deeper level, and then at that point it's like as if there was a sort of total blankness, everything shutting down, because there is no more conceptual part, there is no more the part of the senses, there is no more the part of attraction, aversion, and so on. And from this arises the state of clear light. And at this point, in the state of very subtle clear light, we identify ourselves with I am, the union of very subtle body, this prana, and of the very subtle mind, which are indivisible in the union of bliss and emptiness. It's called the union, the non-dual union of illusory body, which is the very subtle body in a pure state, and of very subtle mind, which is called clear light. So this state is called meditation in the non-dual union of illusory body and clear light, which means our very subtle body, very subtle mind, that then, as we have said many times, they are inseparable. And I generate myself as Vajradhara on a very subtle level. And so what is the initiation of word? Is where I generate myself as being Vajradhara, that is, I take that identity in the initiation of the Vajramaster, I am Vajradhara, and I regenerate it, I bring it to the very subtle level. So here there are various ways with which it could be done. Okay, one is that I imagine that from that state of that luminous infinite void, I arise in the aspect of Vajradhara, so I arise with a very subtle luminous body, with the Hugging Mudra, in the union with the Mother Vajradhatishvari, in the union of bliss and emptiness. But this serves as a symbology to remember me, to help me generate that identity of union of bliss and emptiness, of I am Buddha Vajradhara, to a very subtle level. So the union of my very subtle body and my very subtle mind, so-called clear light and illusory body, arise in the aspect of Buddha Vajradhara. So, and this is called the initiation of word. Why? Because there are no words to describe it. Because it's a state that is non-conceptual. It's the simulation of the achievement of enlightenment. The initiation of word, the actual one, is when one achieves enlightenment, actually. And this is interesting to see that enlightenment is achieved on a very subtle level. Because who reaches enlightenment? Very subtle mind, not the conceptual mind, the gross mind. It's the very subtle mind. But then remanifests itself on a gross level. And so for this, during this moment of the practice, we simulate this. And here one can imagine in the midst of this infinite luminous void to arise in the aspect of Buddha Vajradhara, or simply to experience this union of bliss and emptiness in this infinite luminous void. Usually the most detailed way that is described is to generate oneself in the aspect of Vajradhara, in union with the Mother Vajradhatu Ishvari, representing this union of body and mind as indivisible and non-dual. And also here we live in the duality of body and mind as two things that are separate. Enlightenment also shows non-duality between body and mind. The state that is called Sumchuk, the state of union. It's the non-dual union of body and mind that is described as the non-dual state of the union of illusory body and clear light. Illusory body refers to very subtle body, and clear light to very subtle mind. And I know that all of these are things that for some could be a lot what I'm saying, for others like nothing, because these are all, there's also terminology that we're not used to, but in a few words is the fact, I repeat once again, that we take that identity, I am Buddha Vajradhara, and we take it to a very subtle level. At this point we do the mantra Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. This mantra is done by placing the thumb at the basis of the ring finger. This represents the non-attachment to bliss. Because one of the dangers during this process of the secret initiation, wisdom and so on, is that one has attachment to bliss, to pleasure, and gets lost into that. And there is also one passage in a text of Lama Tsongkhapa where an hypothetical question is given, but maybe someone has actually asked it. How can one generate bliss when hasn't any more attachment towards pleasure? Because the condition in order to do that is to not have attachment towards bliss and pleasure. And so the question is, how do I generate that bliss if I don't have any more attachment towards that? Lama Tsongkhapa replied, it's in the same way that one that doesn't have attachment to food as hungry, and searches for food when he's hungry. So there is the aspect of generating that bliss, even if one doesn't project one's happiness on bliss. I eat because I need to eat. I eat because I need to eliminate hunger, not because I want food. And so there is this aspect where there is this inner state of bliss is not lived like an end in itself, but as a mean, as a tool. And so, as we do on Vishwa Shanti Hum, we take the thumbs at the basis of the ring finger, which represents the non-attachment to bliss itself. And here, if we will want, there are two meanings in this. The non-attachment to bliss during the path, and the non-attachment to bliss of enlightenment. That is, I don't want to reach that state for my benefit, but as a mean, as a tool to help all others. And so we do this. Usually the left hand is kept on the left side, the right hand on the heart. And the mantra that is recited is Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. It's a translation, I don't believe like a literal translation is by the power of the truth, peace and joy for now and forever. And at the superficial level, okay, we have done like the practice and we're making a dedication. May every being live in peace, with peace and joy, by the power of the truth. On a deeper level, what is the meaning? By the power of the truth, peace and joy, now and forever. What is the truth? That everything is interdependent, and so lacks an intrinsic existence. By the power of interdependence, of the emptiness of intrinsic existence, peace is a synonym of emptiness, joy of bliss. So, by the power of the realization of the interdependence of the nature of things, union of bliss and emptiness now and forever. That, in other words, means to reach enlightenment and to remain in that state, to be able to bring it to others. And so, depends on the level of one's own practice, you can live it with different levels of awareness. I can dedicate to the peace of everyone. And at the same time, it also could be also to connect with that deep state of bliss and emptiness in a lasting state. So, by the power of the truth, which also means our pure nature, the truth as our pure nature, free of intrinsic existence, because what allows this union of bliss and emptiness is the emptiness of intrinsic existence, or in the sense that everything is interdependent. For this truth, union of bliss and emptiness now and forever, so peace and joy now and forever. Also because the realization of emptiness pacifies all sufferings of all mental defilements. So that is also why it's called peace. Then we do Om Bishwa Shanti Hum by the power of the truth, peace and joy now and forever. With this, we conclude the part of the completion stage. So we have done generation stage, three transformations, generation of the body mandala. Then we have done the completion stage, initiation of the vase, the 5 Vidyani Buddhas, initiation of the Vajramester, secret initiation, right bodhicitta, right bodhicitta, initiation of the wisdom consort, the union of the two energies at the head, the throat, secret chakra, navel, heart, everything absorbs at the heart, initiation of word. I arise as Buddha Vajradhara in the very subtle state of the union of illusory body and clear light, very subtle body and mind. With this, we conclude what is the part of the main practice, where we have generated a pure identity, brought this pure identity to its peak, so to speak. I am Buddha Vajradhara, and brought that identity, I am Buddha Vajradhara, from a gross level to a subtle level to a very subtle level, simulating also the process of reaching enlightenment itself. So, okay, we have reached enlightenment. Okay, what do? We remain there. No. So at this point, what is there is that one says, okay, what I want more than anything is the same thing that I generated at the beginning of the practice, is to help others. And if I remain in this state of bliss and emptiness in the clear light, the only being that is able to see the very subtle mind and body of another being is a Buddha. So, okay, we meet up with Buddhas, we see the Dharmakaya of each other, also because it's described that when one achieves enlightenment, all Buddhas are of the same nature, because one doesn't have more or less qualities than the other, but everyone maintains one's individuality. It's not like they melt into one thing. Buddhas can talk to each other and say good morning, hello. There is one and the other in this sense. And so what happens is that I am this very subtle state of bliss and emptiness, and with the clear light and illusory body. I am a Buddha, but I want to help beings, and the only way that I can help beings is by interacting with them. So I wish to manifest on a gross level to help beings. And here, in an instant, the universe reappears, but at that point, I find myself in the world where I find myself, and me myself, I arise in the aspect of Guru Buddha. I have a body of light with Vajra and Bell. I take refuge in Guru Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I commit, so I have method, have bliss and emptiness. I commit to practice the Dharma of Sutras and Tantra, to follow and realize the 6 paramitas, and so to practice generosity, morality, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration and wisdom. And first of all, I commit to help and benefit beings. And this is called the part of the final conclusion of the practice. As we said at the beginning, the practice is divided between preliminaries, effective practice, and conclusion. This is in the part of the conclusion, where I arise again in this world, so to speak. It means to generate oneself as a deity between the sessions of meditations, so I come back here in the world, but I am transformed. So I maintain that awareness of the central channel, the suicide channels that are purified, the 5 balanced chakras, a body of light that emanates positive energy and light towards the others. I have Dorje and Bell in the sense that I own inside of me, I am inseparable of an inner state of bliss and emptiness with love and compassion, and I commit to act for the benefit of others. The verse that we recite in that case actually is very explicit, the meaning of this. It says, I take refuge to the Guru and the 3 jewels. I visualize myself as Vajrasattva, holding Vajra and Bell.
Io le traduzioni faccio sempre fatica. Lama Kunjo Sum la Kyarsuchi. Prendo rifugio nel Guru.
I take refuge in the Guru, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. I rise clearly as Guru Buddha, holding Vajra and Bell. So method and wisdom. I commit to sustain the dharmas of all sutras and tantras. I collect all, I gather all virtuous dharmas. I practice the virtuous actions. I avoid all the negative actions. I commit to do what is virtuous. So I commit to abandon what is good and to cultivate what is good. To abandon what is bad and cultivate what is good. And to act for the benefit of others. And I benefit all migrating being with the practice of the 4 generosities. So I uphold to sustain, I commit to uphold the dharmas of sutras and tantras and to help all beings materially, emotionally, with protection and with the dharma. And so I come back to this moment here, transformed, and with a clear commitment of what I do in my daily life. After this, we make the final dedications. Lama Ganchen here added a specific dedication that was written by Panchen Losang Choki Gyatsen for Shambhala. And initially, he added the dedication as we wrote here in its original form. Then, a few years later, often he modified it a bit. So we say, in short, by the collection of the white virtues I have gathered here, may I be reborn quickly into Shambhala, the treasury of jewels, and complete the stages of the path of the highest Yoga Tantra. So may I, through all the positive karmic force that I have generated here, may this be like a sort of push to be reborn into Shambhala, that is this pure land. Shambhala is described as being like this rain where everyone has practiced Kala Chakra, and let's say that everyone, all the citizens of this rain have reached a stage of spiritual evolution, and the whole rain has dematerialized itself. This is a myth, a story that is told. There are those that say that it's true, those that say that it's not true. There is this myth of the story of Shambhala. So may I be reborn in Shambhala so that I can continue my path and reach the state of Buddhahood. Lama Ganchen often changed this verse, and instead of Gyurne, instead of Kiene, which is instead of saying, may I be reborn into Shambhala, may I transform this world into Shambhala. Because the concept that Lama Ganchen was often bringing with Shambhala is that if we all develop spiritually, then this world becomes the same thing. We don't need to go anywhere else. There is everything here. So may I, through the force, the positive karmic force that I've generated here, may I be part of the transformation, transform this world into Shambhala, into pure land, and may I, then, and all the others be able to complete the path towards enlightenment. Then we do the final dedication. Here there is a difficulty of translation. Many times I told myself that I would write a different translation. I was hoping that Lama would tell me, no, don't do it. And then I asked him, yes, do it. But then I never really did it because it's not so simple for various reasons. But anyway, I explain you the meaning, the delicate point of the translation that we have. Nimo means during the day, by day. Delek means happiness and excellence. What is positive, there is happiness, Elek is positive. During the day, happiness and positive things. Sen, night, and Delek, so again, happiness and positive things. Also, at noon, positive things. In Taktu, in all moments, during the day, of all moments of day and night, Delek Pe, so happiness and positive things. And with this, Koncho Sumgi Jingilob, Koncho Sumgi Gondropsol, Koncho Sumgi Tashishok. And here there is a small difficulty for grammar. Koncho Sum means Buddha Dharma and Sangha. Ki depends if you add or not a small little letter in Tibetan, that is the Sa. If there is no Sa, it means there is a possess. If there is a Sa, it means action. So, if I do Koncho Sungi Chingilob with the Sa, it means the three jewels that bless me. If I do the Koncho Sungi Chingilob without the Sa, it means the blessings of the three jewels. And so, at dawn or
adesso mi sono confuso. All'albo, al tramonto, di
at dawn or dusk, at night or midday,
alla notte o durante il giorno, possono i tre gioielli
may all
concederci le loro
three jewels grant us their blessings. So here it was translated as the part of action. May I receive the blessings of Buddha Dharma and Sangha. May they help us to achieve all realizations. The word to help, it's not there. There is Koncho Sungi Gondroptsol. And here it could be translated as may I obtain the realizations of Buddha Dharma and Sangha. So may I realize inside of me the qualities of Buddha, the qualities of Dharma, and the qualities of the Sangha. And in particular, the last part is Koncho Sungi Tashisho. Okay, so that I can obtain the realizations through the three jewels, the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I, through the three jewels, obtain the realization, so to get outside of samsara and reach enlightenment. And here is fine, so may they help us to achieve realizations, is our translation that with a sort of poetic license. And here is the delicate point to sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Koncho Sungi Tashishok. In Tibetan, to sprinkle and life is not there. Koncho Sum, so Buddha Dharma and Sangha, Tashi, good auspicious, good auspice, and Shog, may there be. So actually here there shouldn't be Sa, it's not an action, it's not the good auspice generated by Buddha Dharma and Sangha, is the auspice of Buddha Dharma and Sangha. So what is the most auspicious thing that I wish to everyone? That the Guru Buddha is present in your life. That's the auspicious thing, that Dharma is present, that the Sangha is present. This is the most auspicious thing. It's not that through Buddha Dharma and Sangha there are like rainbows, signs of auspiciousness appearing, like symbols that we can have like a life full of auspicious signs, but it's not that. Like the greatest auspicious thing in our life is the presence in our life of the Guru, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. So what we wish here is, may there be joy and well-being during the day and the night and every moment, and may there be may we receive the blessings of Buddha, Dharma and Sangha so that we can interact with them and receive the blessings, and may there be through the blessings of Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, may that help us to attain the realizations, and may there be auspiciousness in our life by the presence in every moment of our lives of the Guru, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. It's obvious that Tibetan is a language that is difficult to translate. It's not so easy.
Con questo diciamo che
With this, we could say that the circle is closed, so we started the practice by taking refuge, and we end the practice asking the blessings of Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and wishing that they may always be present in our lives and that of the others. With this, we end this explanation, commentary of the practice of the self-healing during these days. I'm very happy that we were able to do it, to face it together. This afternoon we will make a different conclusion, but I want to mainly conclude now, as we completed everything. A part that I leave for another time, also as an auspicious thing to continue, is a part of the self-healing that is not part of the actual part. It's an extra. It's a plus point. That is called the recitation, the Vajra recitation. There is Om Ahum Pe e Om Hum Ha.
una prossima volta.
Next time. Now I don't start to explain it and everything. It's something that is practiced inside of the self-healing. And Lama wanted to insert it. At the end he was saying, what we usually do is a representative practice of the Vajra recitation. It's not the recitation, the Vajra recitation itself, which is done in silence actually, just with the usage of breath and so on.
Si fa dentro
you do
della
it actually inside of the self-healing practice, but this is for another time. We can get into it another time. When we do the Om, Ahum, also the gesture means like rays of light, white in color, come inside the two side channels, fill the central channel, and absorb at the heart. Om, Ahum, and Pe is to eliminate negativities, ignorance.
Om Hum A.
Om, I nourish, I revitalize the energy of body, speech and mind. This is the essence of it. I said that I wouldn't say it, but another time, okay, we get into the details of all of this.
Per seguire la
In
tradizione,
order to follow the tradition, when teaching ends, we start again from the beginning, and to create a positive interdependence, to be able to do it again. So,
la pratica dell'autoguarigione
the self-healing practice is a practice of meditation. It's called Druptap. In Tibetan, that is called method of realization. That is based on the fact of the self-healing, so our own responsibility of healing ourselves, of healing our identity, of healing our I, ourself. So that's why it's self-healing. It's part of the teachings of Buddha, so that's why it's called tantric. So it's inside of the teachings of the Mahayana, Vajrayana. It's being part of the teachings of Buddha, of spiritual path, where we have the awareness that the primary cause of our suffering and happiness is how we live the world and not the world that surrounds us. NgalSo, that is part of the system of recognizing suffering, the causes of suffering, and to have trust in ourselves that we can get out of the cycle of suffering and reach a state of peace, the so-called nirvana. And in the process, in the path of doing it, loving ourselves, loving the others, and developing the correct view of reality. This practice is divided into three parts. We have the preliminary practices, so the preparation, the effective practice with the stage of generation and completion, and the conclusion stage, where when one regenerates again with a cross body and makes the dedications. Now, to conclude, we make the mandala offering. there is a moment where we thank for this opportunity that we have had together during these days. I thank you also because for me, someone could say, aren't you tired? No, actually no, because to me, to do the practice together, to be able to explain it, is something that also gives me joy, gives me energy, and I thank you for the opportunity together. In this, over these years, I've learned much more by teaching rather than studying. Of course, I had to study, but when one teaches, reflects on it, and so on, this teaches a lot. And so, me, the only thing that I ask you is that you that you practice. To understand it is beautiful, this practice, but it serves little if one doesn't practice it. So please practice it. Do it in a long way, short way, singing, reciting with the mudras, without them, without just in silence, many different situations, contexts, and eventually, if one is able to do the practice of the self-healing well, that's what supports us also at the moment of the death. What do we do when I'm going to die? The self-healing internally. If we also should do something for someone that is dying, one of the excellent ways is to do the self-healing for that person, imagining the person itself. There are many incredible uses of the practice of the self-healing, but the important thing is that each one does his own experience. It's a treasure that Lama Ganchen gifted us, and that me, as many others, have received, and I share this with you. During these days, there has been the commentary and also the transmission together with it, and now I leave to you to nourish and take custody of this treasure. So this is the only request, to take care and custody the practice of self-healing and allow yourselves to get deeper and deeper into that and to get your own experience of it and to take it into your everyday life. So now let's make the mandala offering of thanksgiving.
Shim ni de gem pa di sange shinto mikte ulwarki rokunam Dashila Chopar Shojetsulame Kotseraptem Chinam Kar Chingle Chochur Gepadam Lo Santempe Dramesa Sumki Drowem Seltaktu Yedam Guru Ratna Mindrala Kam Niryatayami.
Initially, I also wanted to thank Lama Ganchen Rinpoche and all the masters that allowed me to be here today and to share with you what I offered you. I wanted to thank the presence of each one of you, and I wanted to thank particularly the center and everything that the center means. Because if we are here, it's because there are those that cook, those that do the manutention, those that organize, those that everything that it's in the whole. It's like many people, and it's like a whole. That's like a sort of miracle that is actually happening somehow. Also, for who knows well from the inside the organization of the temple, sometimes one looks and says, I don't know, it's a miracle that also that the balance somehow is working, and if one asks how, by the power of the truth, and a lot of effort, of course. It's a bit like seeing, how you say, like a duck that it's on the lake that is swimming like gently, and you see like very gentle, and but if you look down, there's like the legs moving very quickly. And I wanted to use this moment to also remember one thing, the gratitude towards the center and towards all that also would like to be here, but to give us the opportunity to be here are doing the various tasks at the center, so to thank all that dedicate themselves to the center. And since centuries, Dharma maintained itself also through the organizations that gave the possibilities to the teachings to happen and to people to practice them and to support all of this. Me, I wanted since the very beginning that one wouldn't have to pay for the teachings, because I believe that the relationship that we have with money very often is unhealthy way, something that we need to overcome and so on. But me, for example, during my whole life, I've received so many teachings in a private, personal way, and also in a group, but I never had to pay for a teaching, but I never received any teaching without making an offering, because it's something where we give value. So many years ago, I set like this challenge, okay, like the teachings are free and we trust the awareness of each one and the value that each one gives. And it's something that it's not obvious, but somehow, bit by bit, goes on. But I would like to remember this, that this is not just a simple fact of organization. It's also a change of paradigm. It's not the paradigm where I pay in order to get, but it's the paradigm where there is this is the paradigm where there is the way, the burden to pay. But here is different. It's the pleasure to be able to offer. It's totally different. Like these restaurants, I don't know how many there are of those, but I know that there are some where you eat, and then when you have to pay, it's like zero. The bill is zero. You can. Someone has already paid for you before, so you give something to pay food for the next. When you're paying, you're giving the others the possibility to receive the Dharma, to follow retreats and so on. When we are paying, we're not taking something for ourselves. The dynamic is totally different. The karmic force that is generated is totally different. And so let's try to get into this paradigm where it's not the burden to pay, but it's the joy to be able to offer. And the question that is often asked, how much should I offer? I tell you what I've always done, what is not too much nor too little. If I offer because I have to offer something just like that, then it's not fine. If I give something that kind of harms me, that is too much, it's also not fine. There shouldn't be avarice, there should be the joy in the offering. Something that is important. So it also depends how much value I give to what I received. And here is also an act of maturity of each one to see, okay, and the joy of being able to offer and not the burden to have to pay. Let's change this dynamic. And I say it because then eventually the center needs in its whole of a balance. I've been the one that many years ago I believed into this way of doing, that to give Dharma freely, and I continue with this. Also, walking against the current is not obvious, it's not easy, but I ask everyone really to have this awareness, to be able to have this awareness, to get into this paradigm.
Ed è questo principalmente.
And mostly it's this that I wanted to remember. I wanted to remember this act on each one's side. Then eventually makes a difference, and that's what in the interdependence allows all of us here to continue, that the center itself continues to exist, and it's also a way that when we pay for something, we are taking, and that's it. When we offer, we invest. It's as if we become like partners. So the benefits also from a karmic point of view, energetical point of view, when I pay, I take and I consume my own karma with what I take. When I offer, what I actually do is that I am investing into something, and the positive karmic force that is generated by that something then is also partly mine. So it changes the dynamic completely. And so I wanted to bring this awareness for everyone. And in front of this, I really ask if everyone to connect with that sense of gratitude towards the center, because the center, if the center didn't exist, then we wouldn't be here today. And in order for it to continue to exist, it demands effort from everyone. And we should also try to get out of that dynamic where the center belongs to everyone and so to no one. The center belongs to everyone and so to everyone. And so let's all take care of it in the best way that we can. This is everything. Actually, there was one thing that I wanted to say very quickly. The various projects that we do, like the one that is now of the Wheel of Dharma, of the statues of Lama, actually I see that more as an opportunity for all of us, like a way to participate together to something, because the center is of all of us. Dharma wheels, you have seen maybe the path that we are building around the temple, to do it like the temples in Tibet, to circumambulate around the temple where these 360 wheels will be placed, and inside of the mantras, one of the things that I put as a project is that inside you can also put personal dedications. So one offers a wheel, and inside one puts one's own dedications that will remain there for eternity, so to speak, spinning together with the mantras. So think well about what you want to write in a dedication. And then the project of the statue of Lama is an opportunity for us to participate, to offer the possibility for the statue to be here at the center, for the statue to be offered to the various centers that are around the world, and also the possibility of having a small statue for ourselves. And just like as a curiosity, and one of the things that happens in the center is that, fortunately, the operative costs of the center more or less can be covered by the activities and the donations. But, like for example, last year we closed with like 12,000 euros in negative, which means like we went extremely well compared to other years. But this means that whatever project we do, more, it's not like money that can come from the organization of the center and so on, but we continuously do projects. And this is because we need to invest, we need to continue to grow, the energy needs to grow, and so that's also why projects can be done with the collective energy, just this small thing to remind. But the greatest gift that I ask you is to practice Dharma, to take it into your lives, to share it with others, which doesn't mean to try to convert others into Buddhism, but to bring your experience and to put it into practice. So in other words, we commit to be part of the solution and not of the problem. Now let's make the final dedications. Again, I thank you, and then in the afternoon we will have a moment of conclusion with a brief practice of the self-healing, and then directly we will do the Guru Puja together. But the part of the course of the self-healing and everything we concluded with this session.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar trinle chochur gepadang losan tempe drume sasum ki drove munsela tato ne gyur chi chanchubo semcho Rinpoche ma ke panama ke gyur chi Kyepa nyampar me payang kongne kontu pelwar sho nimo dele tsendele kuyan delek shin Ninsen takto delek pe koncho sumki chingi lop koncho sumki ngodrubot sol koncho sumki trashisho. Ripetete dopo di me.
Repeat after me.
Che lam tudro, lam la parce, miyon warsho. Possa la
May
mente,
the mind become the Dharma.
possa il
May the Dharma become the path.
possa
May the path be free from interferences.
May the mind become the Dharma. May the Dharma become the path. May the path be free from interferences. Mi me tserwe ter chen chen resi drime kempe wampo jampe liang dupung malu jom tse sangwe kanchen kepe tsogen tsongkapa lo san trakpe shabla asolwade. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you everyone.
E ci rivediamo
And
quindi alle
we
4
see each
per
other again at 4 for the conclusion with the Guru Puja.